welcome to the Open Source in Finance Forum 2024. I'm kind of a little rusty, I have to say. I've been out on paternity leave for a while, so hopefully I can keep this, snappy. We have a lot of great news and announcements. Thank you so much for being here. When I look back, it's been now 2 years since we were in London. We have almost twice the amount of people registered for the conference. And really, since where we started, we're really proud. And so thank you so much, again, for taking the time out of your day. We know this is a busy industry, and for being here. As I said, last time we were in London was 2022. I think this is our third edition in London. Again, it's really heartwarming to see you guys. Last time that we ran this event in New York in November, we had over 1,000 registrants. So I'm glad to see that London is catching up to New York. And I have to say, don't tell the Americans, but this is where the core of our community and our contributors are. So, maybe I'm biased as a European. One thing that I'd ask you today, and that's actually something that I've seen new in New York last time, we had so much social interactions during the conference. I have to say this is not an industry that typically engages that much on social, for multiple reasons. But there you got the hashtags. We really would appreciate especially if you like some of the news and announcements that we'll have today, if you can engage on our social accounts, on those hashtags. By the way, it's London Climate Action Week. We have some really interesting news later on. So hopefully you'll find this interesting. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors. This would not be possible without them. So a quick shout out to our leader sponsors, FinOps Foundation and Hedera, our contributor sponsor, GitLab, our community sponsors, Canonical, Control Plane, Syntasso, and Turntable, our digital sponsors, G Research, Scott Logic, and NatWest, who actually also supported the Diversity Scholarship. So once again, thank you so much to our sponsors. Let's give them a good round of applause. In case you want to get connected, you might have noticed there's not a lot of 3G, 4G, 5G coverage down here. Here's the Wi-Fi, should be in the back of your badge as well. And last but not least, if you're not familiar with it, all of our events run under our Community Code of Conduct. There you got a QR code, you want to pull it up. But unsurprisingly, we ask you to be kind, be respectful, and make this a welcoming event for everyone. So thank you so much for abiding to that. And with that, I would like to bring on stage one of our long-term supporters, contributors, and our chair of the board. Actually, you can see he's got 7 or 8 titles there. Is executive sponsors for 3 of our strategic initiatives. Please join welcoming on stage Rhyddian from Citi.
Hi everyone. These are Gab's slides, and he's got lots of click bombs all over the place, so I'm probably going to get it wrong at some point. So thank you for all coming here today. It's wonderful to see everybody back in London for London's OSFF, and to see you all. I want to start by thanking the FINOS team, the brilliant FINOS team, for putting on such an amazing event again in London after 2 years. So please give them a huge round of applause. And in particular, I'd like to thank Jane for running a pretty tight ship whilst Gab was on paternity leave. She's done an amazing job. FINOS has continued to grow and grow. And throughout, she's maintained this totally calm Jane exterior, professional, but with that trademark cheeky smile. I know there's a few challenges along the way, but as you'll see today, FINOS has continued to succeed and grow under her leadership. And then after all that, Gab walks in at the last minute and takes over the mic. But it's lovely to have you back as well, Gab. So thank you, Jane. I'm sure you're glad he's back. So, and I'd like to thank you all for making FINOS and OSFF what it is. We now have 85 members. That's 50% up on the last time that we were in London. So it's an amazing, diverse community. It brings out the absolute best of open source, together with an incredibly strong group of financial services companies and solution and service providers, cloud service providers, consultancies, and open source champions. Now think about it. Where else would you see an industry organization with membership this strong, but where the members are so heavily engaged in building these mutually beneficial solutions? Very, very active. And it's this mutual benefit that makes FINOS such a valuable forum for its members to work together. It's the community that really makes this membership so compelling and why companies are continuing to invest in FINOS. We've always said that although open source is primarily about the technology, it's more than just code contribution. And behind each of these household names joining us are passionate contributors, engineers, project managers, technical writers, UX practitioners. All of these are required. It's not just about the code contribution. And as we continue to grow, there's more to come, as you will see later today. Not only that, but as the membership grows, so the strength and depth of the community grows, and we're tackling broader and deeper problem spaces. We're getting into more and more detail, solving real problems such as, well, the stuff that we can see here, modern interoperable UI development, how to safely leverage cloud solutions for financial services, and how financial services can use AI and stay compliant with regulation. We'll see a lot more about this today as we go through as well. These are all hugely relevant to our industry. And this gives me the chance to share some exciting news, in case you missed it. Earlier this year, FINOS launched a project sandbox where you can try FINOS projects in a live environment. The goal is for developers to reduce the friction for developers to evaluate and consume and ultimately contribute to, hopefully, provide an avenue for the business folks to see the art of the possible. It's so key for business folks to actually see and touch stuff that's working. We know it's very, very hard in financial services to onboard new software. And so the FINOS sandbox is a huge opportunity for them to get acquainted in the FINOS world. Now at Citi, there we go, there was a click bomb. At Citi, we are immensely proud of our contribution to FINOS. And these are some concrete examples of the benefits that mutualizing the cost of solving these common solutions brings for everyone. And I'll talk a little bit about what it means to Citi. So Git Proxy, this is a project that grew up entirely out of the need to contribute to open source. How do you do it in a compliant manner? How do you keep your comms folks happy? And Git Proxy solves that problem. But it was foundational to the community that grew up around Git Proxy for open source readiness, which enabled us to set up our open source program office. So by contributing, we got back the ability to set up an OSPO in a way which our company was very comfortable with. Common cloud controls. This was born out of the cloud security teams, but we knew that automating the compliance and the risk mitigation of using cloud solutions would be immeasurably better. We can do it, and we've got deep pockets, as many of these companies have, but wouldn't it be much better to have something which is more of a common industry standard that becomes acceptable to regulators? And then we got the AI readiness SIG, which has been stood up recently. As with every other industry, AI is going to transform financial services. There's a really good panel talk on it later. But no industry is as heavily regulated as ours, and so it's absolutely essential as we work through this, as we navigate this, that we work out together how to use AI safely in compliance with regulation and benefit our customers. Now, as chair of the governing board, it's been a great year, and I'd like to finish by also thanking the board for their unwavering support. But in particular, I'd like to thank Madeleine. I could not have wished for a better vice chair and board partner over the past year. So please welcome Madeleine to the stage.
Good morning. It's wonderful to be here today. What an amazing room, and I still think New York was bigger, so that's a challenge for the London crew. Although I am a native of France, so I belong to both sides of the pond. This room's a really amazing testament to the impact and growth of financial services open source. And it really is a testament to all the work that all of the individuals that you guys all are participating, working together and collaborating every day. So one of the great strengths of FINOS is that it's a backbone for us to share code, but it's also a backbone for us to broaden and strengthen our relationships. And when I look around this room, I see an amazing group of talented individuals who can really make a difference in millions of people who interact with financial services lives. If we mutualize costs, we bring them down. If we bring innovative technology to financial services, if we take the things that we have in common and we share and we build our value prop above the line, we can really make a huge difference. And it's millions and millions of people who benefit from the world financial system. So I know financial services is not always viewed as the lofty industry, but hopefully you can all take that with you. So we did this in New York, and people really got a lot out of it. So I'm going to ask each of you, get your energy up a little bit, take 30 seconds and meet one person sitting near you or not sitting near you, and just introduce yourselves right now. All right, 10 seconds. Thank you. All right, we're going to keep going now. I know the slides aren't that interesting, but we got to keep going now because we're on a clock. Thank you. Maybe we'll turn this into a FINOS tradition. The energy is accelerating, and it's really exciting that everybody is so happy to meet a person or two. And really, this is what the whole conference is about, so hopefully take it the whole day and keep introducing yourselves and meeting people and kind of build out that network effect. So combine that energy we just saw with the response that we got to the 2023 survey on open source in financial services. Over 90% of our respondents think that open source is useful and valuable to their own companies and to the industry at large. So pretty amazing opportunity here, and the sky's the limit, really, in what we can do. So FINOS was founded by the sell side, for sure, but there really is a network effect going on, and we are growing across the entire financial services ecosystem. So the buy side's hitting critical mass with Fidelity and BlackRock. Point72 was the first buy side joiner. We're starting to see exchanges and market data providers and payment providers and cloud services and consultants who are showing interest in joining at various paces. Gab's going to have some new joiners to announce a little bit later. But hold on, let me do this. So I just wanted to highlight Tradeweb, Google, Microsoft, really exciting new ads. And just, as you think about the financial services ecosystem, FINOS is about all financial services, right? So we're going to stop using the word banks to refer to the industry. And as you interact with other counterparts, bring them to Gab, bring them to Jane, and they will be happy to bring them into the fold in the community. So speaking of the community, we want to take a moment to recognize the contributions of our new ambassador class. So please join me in giving a round of applause to Olivier, Luca, Brett, Brittany, Eddie, Mike, Sam, Paula, Peter, and Cody. Thank you so much for all that you do for the community. And of course, our technical oversight committee members are hugely important. Eddie, Paula, Chris, Matthew, and Vincent. Thank you so much. So this is a moment for a public service announcement. The QR code is here. You probably can't quite fill this out from your seats, but please make sure to fill this out. We absolutely want to hear from you. It's really important for FINOS to understand what the feedback is in terms of where open source is in the industry. We do this survey every year, so please fill it out. It's really important to get that feedback loop so that we can continue to evolve based on your feedback and thoughts. Not just what we see amongst ourselves of the board and the team. And a couple things before I hand it off to Gab. I would like to thank Jane for her leadership while Gab was on paternity leave. She was amazing. And congratulate Gab on being a father again. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeleine. Thank you, Rhyddian. This is heartwarming to see and hear all this positive feedback. So we have a packed agenda today. And hopefully, what I would like to set out as a goal is to understand whether we are indispensable for this industry yet. What do I mean by that? We're part of the Linux Foundation. The Linux Foundation hosts some of the largest and most critical projects in the world. Arguably, without Linux, we wouldn't be, looking at the technology landscape that we look at today. There would be no cloud, just for a start. So my hope is that as we go through the presentation, we'll see where we are in our mission. We think we can be and we should be indispensable for the industry, like open source is, frankly, indispensable for any other industry. And so let's see how are we doing here. So let's start with our first announcement. Today, we're very proud to announce that 8 new members have joined the foundation. To the most attentive of you, some of these logos were already in Rhyddian's slide. It was a bit of an Easter egg. I am very excited to welcome landmark names like DTCC, FactSet, Intel, JSCC, AWS, Provectus, State Street, and TestifySec to the foundation. Thank you so much for joining us. Here you got the press release there, but my goal, again, hopefully through the presentation, is to share this is not just marketing. These folks are joining for a very specific reason, which, as Madeleine said, will drive the betterment of the industry. But of course, everyone here is to drive their own business goals. And that's the beauty of open source. I often refer to as a positive sum game. So we're very excited to start to see new constituencies now that we have also clearinghouses, intermediaries. This is getting really, really exciting, I think, and I hope you guys share some of that excitement. It's not only about the new members, but it's also about the members that continue to upgrade their commit and their support. So I want to thank Interop.io for becoming our latest gold member. Now, since there's been a little bit of talk about that, and turns out that in the last 2 weeks, I have been lagging on sharing baby pictures. I figured that I will put that on stage. I'm not sure I'll be able to concentrate for the next hour now that I look at this picture, as that's our new addition to the community. And I just want to take a second to, I think Rhyddian and Madeleine said it right, to thank the team. I was really proud to come back to so much progress. A huge shout out, of course, to Jane, but to really the rest of the team. Kind of sounds like I need to go on paternity leave more often because things have gone really well. Maybe maybe I'm not so needed anyway. But again, this is, I think, a testament to the growth, not just of the community, but of the FINOS team. So introduce yourself. Hopefully you get to meet them. We have almost 15 people from the team today here. So, as we talk about our role in the industry, these are the 4 themes that we're going to go through today. We see FINOS as any foundation, as the neutral steward for the commons for this industry. As Rhyddian said, we enable institutions to get the most return on investment on actually engaging and contributing to open source. We'll talk about how we're mutualizing innovation. Open innovation is, a concept that is beyond open source, but open source is probably the main vehicle for open innovation in this time and age. And then last but not least, Rhyddian hinted to it, this is not just about technology. We think that through open source we can address some of the most pressing C-suite challenges in the industry. So hopefully, by the end of the day, you'll be energized and understanding what FINOS does better. So let's start with the first topic. When people ask me what a foundation is about, well, again, fundamentally a neutral steward for intellectual property, especially when you have individuals and corporations collaborating on it. But in fairness, when you try to explain this role to a known lawyer, and trust me, I'm not a lawyer, it quickly gets muddled into, patent, copyrights, trademarks. I just say not the most exciting topic for an open source developer. But this year, we've seen a trend that hopefully can exemplify the role of a foundation. How many of you are familiar with Terraform? Okay, quite a bit. So you probably know that the company behind Terraform, HashiCorp, earlier this year switched their license to a non-open source license. And to be clear, that's perfectly their prerogative. They were the sole owner of the copyright of that software. And so they decided, for understandable business reasons, to change their license. But so the community decided to fork and create an actual openly stewarded project, which happens to be under the Linux Foundation, called OpenTofu. Similarly, how many of you are familiar with Redis? Quite a bit. This is a trend that we're seeing. Redis changed their license, and the community decided to fork and create an openly governed project under the Linux Foundation called Valkey. Now, as I said, this is no judgment. This is completely their prerogative. But it's also important for consumers to know that open source doesn't necessarily mean neutrally owned, and that the value of a foundation is to make sure that something is going to be open source now, and it's going to be open source forever. And this is not just about changing licenses. I mean, arguably, projects like Kubernetes or Linux itself wouldn't be where they are if they were controlled, at least from a copyright standpoint, by a single company. And we've seen these examples in FINOS as well. The CDM, FDC3, those were projects that were originally started by an individual organization or a trade association, and then moved into FINOS to ensure sort of this long-term neutrality and ensure that consumers, can de-risk their investment, can know that they can rely on a long-term sort of set of licenses. And so when AWS, who joined us as a silver member early this year, approached us with a very interesting high throughput computing grid project that they wanted to collaborate on with their peers and their competitors, we were absolutely excited. That's the first and foremost, the paramount use case for a foundation. And so I'm very excited to announce that today the HTC Grid project has been accepted for incubation into FINOS. Incubation is our first stage that every project goes through. And we hope that being in the foundation encourages competitors, customers, peers to collaborate to the project. The team is here at the project booth, so I hope you get a chance to learn about this project, which I think could be a very interesting one for the whole community. Now, a quick note here. There's a whole new frontier of why foundations are important. You might have heard, open source AI, open source LLM. Well, let's just say that the community itself hasn't yet agreed really what open source AI means. And so there's a lot of open washing going on out there. One more reason for a foundation to exist to help steward the industry. And this is what we're trying to do through our AI strategic initiative. So let's move to our second role for a foundation. Enabling organizations to contribute open source and get ROI out of it. This has been the first and foremost thing that FINOS did for many years. I mean, most of you know that 10 years ago, open source in financial services was not a thing. So for the first few years, we worked with the largest banks and financial institutions to codify what it takes for an organization, for a regulated industry to consume and contribute open source. If your firm is not able to contribute or consume, check out our open source readiness body of knowledge, osr@finos.org. This is really standing on the shoulder of giants. It's been a huge effort, collaborative from all these firms that decided to really open source their knowledge and their practices of how to do open source. And that really lifts the whole industry. And if you don't want to look at the long set of documentation pages, we have free training and the certification that you can take. This is a hugely valuable resource, years and years of the largest organizations in the industry contributing to open source. And this has been recognized. A few years ago, you wouldn't have trade press covering the open source journey of this industry. Open source was not even a thing, again, specifically in trade press. Again, it's not just about marketing. If you want to take a look at our Springbot case study, you'll see how our open source projects are used at Deutsche Bank, for example, to really accelerate innovation and as part of their core business processes. This brings me to one exciting example. UBS joined us in 2020. I would say not the most open source friendly organization at that time. But slowly, but steadily, every year we've seen progression. In 2021, they signed the contributor license agreement. In 22, they raised their first pull request. Then they started leading 1/6. I'm very excited today to announce that they contributed the View project. And I would like to bring in Emily, who's coming all the way from Hong Kong to talk to us about View. Welcome, Emily.
So, hello, I'm Emily from UBS, and I'm sure you all know financial services cannot run without open source. Just think about how much we rely on Linux, Apache, Git, React.js. The list can go on forever. We can all collaborate and build a solution once in open, rather than all of us doing it multiple times, the same thing, in close. One of the most common and complex UI problem with large amount of fast and slow moving data, a very typical trading and risk UI requirement, just with simple steps to allow developers to create the UI from scratch. This is our FINOS project, View. So all the details are on the slides if you want to contact us and if you want to get started with View. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the View contributors, and especially the collaboration with Scott Logic team. And please come and see us in the breakout section later. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Emily. We are very excited about this contribution. So, moving on. We actually regained some time back. Wow. I'm going to get less in trouble. Maybe. So, moving to our third sort of role that we play in the industry, I think this is one of the most exciting ones. We're an engine for collective open innovation. There's a lot of areas in this industry, especially when it comes to innovation, that are non-differentiating. I think AI is a huge example. We'll talk a lot about it today and during the breakout sessions. You might have seen this figure before. We shared it in New York in November. But this was originally shared by our executive director, Jim Zemlin. This figure is the faux payroll. If we were to average out, an average salary for all the over 650,000 contributors that work at the Linux Foundation, or that contribute to Linux Foundation projects, better said, that will amount to about $26 billion. I guess I should update this figure in pounds. That is more than the Microsoft innovation budget, just to give you a figure. So that's the type of collective innovation that we can achieve together, especially when we work on pre-competitive, non-differentiating stuff. So FINOS, over the last 2 years, has really been focused on creating the venues for this innovation to happen. Zenith, we launched in 2023, is our shared innovation SIG at zenith.finos.org, meets every couple of weeks. They're really working on, again, mutualizing emerging technology work, doing pilots in a way that is open, and it's available and hopefully faster and I guess more with a higher potential to get to production than what we see sort of in a siloed approach. And Rhyddian touched on it. We'll talk about it quite a bit today. AI readiness is a SIG that we announced earlier this year. There was overwhelming agreement with our board and our members that all organizations in our membership and in the industry are undergoing, the AI revolution, and they're all trying to figure out how to do that in safety and compliance. So on the basis of sort of on the lessons that we learned through open source readiness, it was very clear that we could play a role in creating a governance framework that could, again, lift all boats. This is non-differentiating, the type of non-differentiating innovation that we're talking about. But it's not just about readiness. And as you go through the day, hopefully you learn that beyond the readiness SIG, which is absolutely critical in terms of consuming AI in this industry, we're actually looking at even bolder non-differentiating pre-competitive approaches. And that's our open financial LLM exploration. Look, let's be clear, we don't have to do an open source LLM just because we have to do it, just because it's hype. But there are plenty of use cases that we believe are pre-competitive and that we're actively exploring with our members to ultimately come up with truly open source benchmarks, data sets, models. This is a very, very exciting area for us. Several members have joined because of this initiative. And we're also exploring the idea of creating a research fund. Most financial institutions are in search of deep talent in this area. And most academic organizations would love to have a much better access to industry and to the use cases that really matter in the industry. So if you're interested, you got the QR codes there to join the AI Readiness SIG, to join our Open Financial LLM exploration, and to hopefully help us create a research fund that can connect these two worlds, ultimately with the outcome being to accelerate open source LLM and AI. As I said, the community rallied behind this initiative. We just launched a couple of months ago. We have some landmark names leading the initiative. We had over 200 participants. And today, as I said before, we have actually 4 members joining us primarily for this initiative, as you'll see in the press release.